Hello, thank you for joining us today on our Authority Magazine interview series. Today I'm talking to Annika Carroll, and we are discussing why making a good night's sleep should be a priority in your life and how you can make that happen. I'm Shawna Robbins. I am CEO and founder of Third Spark. And Annika is a sleep and health coach for women and the owner of Sleep Like a Boss. Annika helps ambitious women regain control of their sleep and avoid burnout. She dives into the nitty-gritty, working with clients to tackle physical issues that are affecting their sleep, like their gut health and their hormones, because sleep issues are not all in your head. Hi, Annika. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Shawna, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk about all things sleep. You know that I love sleep. I love to sleep. I love to help women sleep, and I want to know how you got interested in becoming a sleep coach.
Yeah, it's a kind of like I think how several health coaches get into health because of our own struggles. I used to be a super sleeper in I would say in my childhood, in my 20s, and I would hit the pillow, be out, be up before the alarm, go all day. And when I had a child and that didn't go super smoothly, um, there was a lot of trauma. And then I went back to work, and burnt myself out and couldn't sleep anymore. And I was exhausted. And I was working in corporate in human resources. So I was teaching people all about stress management and resiliency and all that stuff. And ignored the red flags in my body. Really just, there was a day where I just couldn't get up anymore. And then I was up every night from 1 to 4, and I was losing my mind. And I was having panic attacks and anxiety, and it was horrible. And nobody was really helping me. Doctors ran so many tests, said I was fine. I should go see a therapist, which I did, which didn't really fix the sleep issue whatsoever. And then I stumbled across functional work, functional medicine. And the person who looked at me and looked at everything that was going on in my body and put all the puzzle pieces together for me individually helped me get my sleep back. And then I was like, at that point, I was kind of done with my corporate career, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? I started going into nutrition, but that wasn't it. And then I was like, you know what? I want to do functional too, because I just love the detective work and it's just so much fun. And then sleep was the thing. I was like, what could you talk about? And you maybe it's not for you too. What can you talk about all day? What do people really need? And what do people struggle with so much? Right. And yeah. And for me, that was sleep. And I'm somebody who I need a good amount. And if I don't get it, I see it right away. I see it. I feel it. The people around me get to notice it. Right. So yeah, it's just my thing. I think it's foundational. And I think we all should be blessed with getting good sleep.
And so many of us don't, right? I mean, it's chronically, I saw the statistics in the US alone, 49% of women are chronically sleep deprived, which means they're sleeping under 7 hours a night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about why you feel that people have a sleep problem in general. I know we touched on this a little bit before our interview, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, why you think we are having such a sleep. I think it's a sleep epidemic, really.
I think I think there's multiple aspects to it. I think one is for sure what I would categorize in like behavior. Do we give ourselves the opportunity to have enough sleep? Like if I go to sleep at a time that doesn't allow me to get the 7 or 8 hours that I need, I'm self-sabotaging, right? Like if I go to bed at midnight and the alarm goes off at 6 and I'm trying to get 8 hours of sleep, that is mathematically never going to happen, right? So is it me who's driving because of whatever? Because I'm so busy, because I want alone time at night when the kids are in bed. Is there that Netflix show that I need to see because tomorrow at the office, everybody's going to be talking about it and I need to get it in? Is that why I'm not sleeping enough? Or is it because I'm actually messing with my body's physiology, with my cortisol and melatonin production? And people might have heard about the circadian rhythm. Am I in front of screens too much? Is there too much light? Am I just not able to sleep well because I've just suppressed melatonin production? Or am I somebody who is anxious? Maybe. or depressed. And something like falling asleep is really hard for me because I have this monkey mind and I just have too much going on, right? Or is there something going on in the body, maybe even because of all that stress that I've been having over the years, that my body is just really out of balance, that my gut is affected, that my hormones are out of whack, that because all of that, I don't have what we call them, they're called neurotransmitters. We don't have the proper chemical messaging going on in the brain to calm us down. Like there could be lots of things going on, but I think the big one I see is people do not give themselves enough time to get enough sleep in.
So you think that by reprioritizing things in the day, you'll be able to impact your sleep the greatest at nighttime?
I think for the average person, yes. I think if I'm actually, because what I always tell my clients, or like, yeah, in general, or when I speak, because people are always like nighttime routine, nighttime routine, nighttime routine. Yes, you can't, if you hit the pillow running, basically, you're still kind of running. You're not gonna, but so a nighttime routine to wind down and like start processing from the day, that's great. But if we actually look at how the body functions, your bedtime routine starts in the morning and people are like, oh my God, there's a bajillion things I need to do. I'm already stressed. No, we need to do, I think, a few things right during the day just to set ourselves up for success at night. And some of those things are things like getting light exposure first thing in the morning, telling your brain, hello, it's morning, give me cortisol, give me energy, and set your inner clock, which is in your brain, to release melatonin 14, 16 hours down the road to help you make you sleepy. And that's all done through light exposure, so natural light. Things like taking breaks during the day. And I'm not judging here. I was the worst at that. I was not. I was having lunch at my desk. I was too busy doing everything. Like, I'm just talking from personal experience as well. But really slowing down during the day here and there, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just to sit there, not scroll your phone, enjoy that tea or coffee or whatever you're having, and just be there and sit there and start thinking about things that came in during the day, right? Start processing. So it doesn't hit you when you hit the pillow. So it's not your brain's like, oh, she's finally quiet. Let me tell you what I have to say, right? And then all your to-do lists and all your worries and everything comes running. And so I think really doing things right during the day is really important to set your body and set your brain up for sleep at night, for sure.
Yeah, I love that you wrote that in your article. You said good sleep begins in the morning. And I think that that's such a important thing for people to realize, because if they really understood that your habits, your daytime habits lead to good sleep or poor sleep, it helps give people a sense of control, and it helps people feel more powerful because they really can control whether or not they have good sleep or poor sleep. And I think that sometimes people just think like, why is this happening to me? I don't understand why this is, I've never been a good sleeper, or I don't understand why sleep is challenging for me. And so once they understand the root cause of poor sleep, then they can be empowered to make the changes that they need to make. So tell me, when you're working with your clients, what are some of the key things that you're looking at? I know you touched on a lot of things. I mean, give me a rundown. So if I were to come in as a client to work with you, what would be the first thing that we would do together?
Well, that depends really on what the client is already doing, because some of my clients have really literally tried every tool and everything on the planet. But I would go through like a very detailed intake with you. I look at what's 24 hours in your day like, exactly that. What are you currently doing when? And then we'll look at not just in terms of activities, but also what are you eating when, what are you not eating when, right? How is your day structured? How's your evening structured? So we're doing all that first. So we're going to look for quick wins, right? Are there things? Are we getting light first thing in the morning? So we're going to try and reset your circadian rhythm. Are your meal times the right times for you personally? Are you potentially, for women, I see this often, are we over fasting? Are we potentially playing with our blood sugar here, which is not a good thing? Are we not getting enough calories? Are we getting movement in? And I don't even mean exercise necessarily, because people who are exhausted that might not be the right thing, but are we getting outside? Are we moving the body, right? How are we looking after ourselves? And then I run a stool test for my clients. I run a hormone test, a neurotransmitter test, and a nutrients test. And we look at what is going on in your body. Are there things that are driving cortisol up? Because that's your stress or your awake hormone, and that should be low at night. And a lot of people have what we call a shifted circadian rhythm. So your cortisol is released at times or in amounts where we don't want it, where we want melatonin to be higher. So, and that could interfere with your sleep. And I often see it. Gut issues, I think if we tested everybody on the planet, probably, I don't know, 80%, 90% of people probably have gut issues. I see a lot of inflammation in the gut permeability issues. So leaky gut, that's often referred to as leaky gut. Candida overgrowth, a big one for night wakings. If we have all this inflammation and bacterial overgrowth going on in the gut, we likely have an issue with hormones. So we look at that too. What are your sex hormones like? What's your estrogen? What's your progesterone? What's your testosterone like? What is your cortisol like? Where's that curve going, right? Do you have that nice jump of energy in the morning because your cortisol goes up? And does it come down nicely? Or does it do funky things? Is it really high in the morning when you wake up? And is it maybe even high again at night when you're trying to sleep? Or what is going on in your body? And then I look at neurotransmitters, because neurotransmitters are these chemical messengers in your body that need good gut health and good minerals to be made properly, that either excite you or they calm you down. That's basically their job. And I see this a lot, and I think I still think this is part of post-pandemic picture. So many people have absolutely depleted neurotransmitters, absolutely depleted. And some of that is gut health related, but I think some of it is just pure stress related from what everybody's gone through. Then on top, add you're not sleeping. And it's just like the body at some point just can't keep up with making things anymore, right? It just uses up everything it has. And then we just need to start replenishing that. And help you get into a healthy circadian rhythm, into healthy cortisol responses, into healthy melatonin cycles, and with all that helping you, depending on where you are at your age, having your sex hormones balance out.
Wow.
It's a lot, I know.
No, but it's amazing. Like I feel like, I asked you what it would be like if I came in to be a client, and if I came to you and you ran all these things on me and we had these conversations about my body, I think the most, the two takeaways for me would be, not only is my body such a unique thing and my lifestyle is so unique and my stress level and everything that makes up my body is so unique, but I would also really feel seen, because a lot of medical doctors and nurse practitioners, they're not going to take the time to kind of piece all these things together to look at why you're not sleeping. For example, when I first hit perimenopause at 47, I went to see my general practitioner, and she said, well, all we have for you is antidepressants that will help your hot flashes. And I was like, wait a second, my estrogen levels are dropping. I'm not sleeping because I'm having hot flashes 2-3 times a night and soaking my sheets. I don't want an antidepressant. I want something that's going to help my hormone changes, but there wasn't anything available to me. And so I had to go from doctor to doctor. I actually went to like 4 or 5 different doctors, just trying to find somebody that could see me and help me and look at me from my body from a holistic viewpoint. So I think that's, I can only imagine how wonderful that must be for your clients to be able to have you look at all these different pieces and sort of, like you said, investigate and research and kind of put them together for them. So give me an idea then, if I'm one of your clients, again, I think I must want to be one of your clients who wakes up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I know that from my clients, that's what I see. I see a lot of women in their 40s and 50s that have that wake up and they're awake. They're up at 3, they're up at 4, and they're awake. And it's very challenging to get back to sleep when they know they have to get up at 6 to get the kids to school, to commute to work, to do the things they need to do in a day. And it's very frustrating when that happens for them. So what advice would you give?
The number one advice I give, and people are like, you're crazy. Like, how am I supposed to do that? Do not look at the clock. That's my number one thing that I work on first. And people have such resistance to it. And I totally get it because it's the habit, is the first thing. I wake up. I want to know what time it is. How much more time do I have till I have to get up? Try to not do it because you're engaging your brain, not just in a mathematical calculation, because it's going to do the math from, oh, it's 3 a.m. I have to get up at 6. That's 3 more hours. Oh no, if I don't fall asleep in the next hour, is it even worth, then you're going to, or should I just get up and do whatever else needs to be done, or even open my computer and work and answer some emails? Like, people have these conversations with themselves, and you're in, that's awake mode. Like, you're shifting yourself into being awake. So I try to have people wake up and get to the point of saying, yeah, I'm awake. Okay, we accept that. It's like, it's raining today. Yeah. Oh, okay. Am I super happy about it? No, but I can't really change it right now anyhow. So let's just bring the umbrella and we'll go with the day, right? So same thing with sleep. Try and accept it if you can. And that really depends on the person, I find. Can you just tuck yourself in and rest and be there and think about, okay, I'm still getting rest. This is still time where I don't have to work. I'm good. I'm resting. And then maybe think about things that are really calming, like visualize. If it's for people, it's often either it's a vacation that they really enjoy, just being on and just thinking about it, or something that you really enjoyed the day before. And sometimes that is enough to, within maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, get you to drift back off to sleep. If that doesn't happen and you start getting very anxious and you feel yourself starting to get nervous and thinking, I would get up. I would leave the bedroom and I would do something like dim lights, read a book. I'm not necessarily too opposed to watching television. I know there's practitioners out there who have very different opinions about that. If it's the actual television and you're watching the 500th rerun of Friends, I'm totally fine with that, because that can be calming for people because it's something that's familiar to them. I would not watch the news and I would not watch a horror movie or something like that. But if it's something that that you feel comfortable with, I think that's okay. And it works for a lot of my clients because you're up anyhow. I wouldn't do I wouldn't do it on the phone. I wouldn't do it too close to the eyes. I would do it like a TV because generally the distance is further away. And then when you're really getting cold and tired again, that shivering that comes when you sit on the couch and you want to cuddle up in the blanket and you get really tired, go back to bed.
Interesting advice. I definitely, and you found that works for your clients?
Yes, for some, like I think I think for some it doesn't. For some it's just reading. I think the biggest challenge for people is to not look at the clock, to accept that they're up, and that's something we have to kind of work on. But the less we stress about sleep, the more likely it's going to happen. And what I tend to often not do with my clients, I don't do sleep restriction, which we know from cognitive behavioral therapy, as in you will go to bed at 2 a.m. if you can't fall asleep. Like, I don't like to do that because a lot of the ladies are so exhausted that I wouldn't do that. But if they really are up and it starts freaking them out, then I would say leave the bedroom. Like, you're up anyhow, you're going to be laying there staring at the ceiling, so you might as well keep yourself preoccupied and do something. And then go back to bed. And is it frustrating? And do we want to sleep? Yeah, of course. But we're just not there yet in that moment.
Yeah, I talk a lot about having a sleep mindset, and that's definitely part of it, right? Of like, just because you have a bad night or a bad couple of nights or even a bad month doesn't mean that it's always going to be bad. It doesn't mean it's always going to be difficult, right? So it's like building that resilience. But I think you touch on an important point, and that's the sleep anxiety that a lot of people feel. And not only getting into bed and worrying about, oh my God, is tonight going to be one of those nights where I'm up every 20 minutes or where I'm up for 3 hours? Like, there's a lot to be said about that. The way that people start to feel a lot of anxiety and stress around sleeping. I think that's really important to touch on, and being able to give people skills, I think, is really helpful.
I agree with you. And I also think that is where, if you're somebody who struggles with that, and I have a lot of clients who do that, because like some of my clients haven't literally, and I'm not making this up, have not slept. My longest client is 35 years. She's over 70 years old.
Wow.
And can we flip that in a couple of months? No, we cannot, because the body needs to we need to really retrain her and get into that safe space. So that takes a while. But what I find is when people struggle with sleep anxiety and they work with somebody, and that could be somebody like you or me or somebody who does cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia only, if it's a therapist or something like that, right? As soon as you have somebody by your side, I find that often takes pressure off. That is like, well, there's somebody I can reach out to tomorrow and say, you know what, this is horrible. Am I spiraling again in the wrong direction, or what is happening? I find, or somebody, you can just kind of put that anxiety on. Like, I have this issue, yes, and it's okay, and it's actually quite common. You're not alone, and we'll work you through this. I find that is often where coaching is helpful, and you like maybe you have other experience, but I find often if I try to do this by myself, I have to, yes, understand the tool and use the tool, and have the confidence in myself, kind of, that I can rest in it and that it'll sort itself out. And I find sometimes, depending on the degree of sleep anxiety, that can be hard for people to do by themselves.
Yeah, I agree. It's always helpful to have somebody supporting you, holding you accountable, just there to lean on and ask questions and troubleshoot. And yeah, I agree 100% with that.
And encourage, right? Because once we get on that journey, well, I think nobody has the perfect sleep. Like, it doesn't exist 100% of the time. Sleep coaches also have bad nights. And I think also taking the pressure off, encouraging that when we're learning, and there's a few good nights, and then there's a few that are not going to be great, and then there's a few, and it gets better and better and better and better, to really have somebody to cheer you on so you know you're on the right track.
Yeah, celebrating your wins when it comes to sleep is really important, even if it's an extra 30 minutes or 20 minutes, or being able to get to bed earlier when you've been unable to, or being able to fall asleep just a little bit quicker. All of those nuances are great to celebrate so that you can see your progress. And I always talk about progress over perfection, right? Yeah. Like you said, I mean, you and I don't always have great night's sleep, and we know everything that we need to do to help us sleep well. And it still happens. It's just part of being a human being. It's part of being in this world where we do have a lot of stress. We do have a lot of worries. And it's also just part of being a woman. There's hormone changes. There's lots of things that we're dealing with. And so, yeah, I think that giving yourself grace is a really, really big part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. So how can people find you? Give me some information of, social media, anything that you want to share about your business.
Yeah, so sleeplikeaboss.com is the website. There's quite a bit of blog posts on there where we go into a lot of sleep topics that might be interesting. I do have a podcast. It's called Sleep Like a Boss, where I talk about all kinds of things women's health. So it's sleep focused, of course, but we do touch on a lot of hormones, gut health, stress management, trauma, all kinds of things that might be affecting your sleep or your well-being. So I would really encourage you to check that out.
Great. And where can we find your podcast?
Apple, Spotify, I think basically everywhere where you want to listen to, where you normally get your podcast.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right, Annika, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great chatting with you. We could chat all day about sleep things.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thanks for joining me.